And today we have Paweł Śliwowski, who is an acting deputy director of the Polish Economic Institute. Paweł is an experienced analyst and socioeconomic researcher. He has an experience in academic teaching and consulting for the public sector. He has worked with different institutions within public sector, such as the European Commission, the European Investment Bank, the Chancellery of the Prime Minister, and some ministries in Poland as well. But what Paweł is most interested in, and what his today's talk will also cover, is the intersection of design thinking, behavioral science, and public policy. So now, Paweł, I think the floor is yours, and you can also tell a bit more about yourself and your work. Okay, and after the talk, we would have some time for the questions, as always. So please listen carefully and prepare questions for Paweł.
Okay, thank you very much for this kind invitation and introduction. Today, I will basically tell you some story, let's say I will share some basic ideas how you could integrate behavioral science into your designing process. I am basically, as was said before, based, and I mainly work as a public policy analyst. So my background and my experiences are with designing and evaluating, to some extent also implementing public policies. But I am fully convinced that what I'm going to say today is easily transferable to more broader areas, and that's why the title of the presentation is Behavioral Sciences in Social Innovations. Okay, I'm trying to. Okay, now it works. So let's start with the key and fundamental assumption that when you make decisions in the political realm, in the policy realm, but also in the social innovation realm, when you design projects, programs, when you create new things, you make many decisions which are based on certain assumptions about human nature and especially human choice. This is not my idea. This is the idea of the Danny Kahneman, who is a Nobel Award winner for economics, although he's a psychological scientist. And this is an assumption, this is a thesis that I fully agree with. And nowadays, within the realm of public policy, more and more people do agree that when we design policies, when we design public projects, basically what we do is we are dealing with changing people's behaviors. So we try to influence behavior, we try to understand behavior, we try to change behavior. The problem is that many of our actions are based on false assumptions about the behavior itself. So we are not educated well enough in many public bodies to understand what behavior really is, what are the driving forces behind human behavior, and what are the feasible and effective ways of influencing this behavior. So in my previous research, I coined the idea that the problem with the behavior in public policy is like the problem with penguin's neck. So when you look at the penguins in such picture, in such perspective, you think that there is no neck, that this animal has no neck, but or at least has a very short neck. But when you look at the X-rays of the skeletons, you basically see that penguins have quite long neck, and their neck spine is quite prolonged. So basically, this is how we look at the behaviors. We see something like this, we think about something like this, but in reality, we are dealing with something like this. So when you have false assumptions, when you do not understand how and what you are going to change, then basically your ideas, your projects, your aims cannot be met. And in public policy, in the economy, for years there have been a notion that people, human beings, and citizens, as a result, are rational. So they gather all available information, then analyze pros and cons of each option. They take long-term consequences into account when they make choices. They do not act impulsively, they control their emotions, and so on and so on. And they are not social beings, they are rather individuals who, within their decisions, basically focus on their own profits. One of the behavioral researchers claim that if we look at the human being of citizens like that, then we portray the people as Spider-Man when it comes to attention, Einstein when it comes to belief formation, Kasparov when it comes to choices, and Mahatma Gandhi when it comes to determination. But basically, what our common knowledge and more scientific knowledge shows us, this is basically not true. So we are building many projects, we are building many public programs, policies, regulations based on the false assumptions about human behavior, human cognitive processes. And basically we introduce these false assumptions into standard public policy tools, which are information and education. So of course, the main premise, the main argument is that people don't know what's good for them. People don't know what they have to do in order to achieve their goals, to be healthy, to save for retirement, to avoid health problems during their adulthood, and so on and so on. So what we do, we invest heavily in information and education campaigns. We try to educate people, to tell them how they should behave. We also think that easy way to influence behavior is to regulate, to ban, to make fines, or to mandate something. That if people are told what is good to do, if we scare them, if we tell them that if you violated the law, you will be fined, then they will obey, and then they will do what we are expecting them to do. Of course, majority of data we have shows that although regulations, bans, and so on are quite effective, they are not effective to the extent that they should be, had the assumptions about the behavior be fully true. And then there is another strand of policy tools, which is based on incentives and rewards. So we think that if we give people some financial or other incentive, then they are going to behave in a way we are expecting them to. And the last traditional public policy tools are also infrastructure and resources, which are based on the assumption that people, in order to do something, have to have resources, have to have infrastructure to engage with. And basically, some of these tools are well-founded in the policy realm, and they are quite effective. Some of them do really play important role and are really valuable. My lecture today, my idea, which I'm trying to sell you, is not to totally disagree with this traditional approach. My idea is to invite you to the thinking that all these traditional tools, which are also the tools for social innovations, could be enriched by the more nuanced, but the more profound look at how humans really behave and what the science tells us about human behavior. So let's start with the simple notion that we act in the realm of bounded rationality. So we are not omnipotent supercomputers as pictured in the previous slides, but basically, as Herbert Simon coined, there are external sizers which cut our rationality and that create boundaries to what we can do, to how we can act. And this is sometimes and quite often not recognized by all the policymakers, by the people who are responsible for writing laws, bills, and so on and so on. And secondly, also the quotation from Herbert Simon is that human beings viewed as behaving systems are quite simple, and what makes our behavior complex over time is basically the complexity of our environment. So basically, we do live in the designed environment. Our institutions, our physical spaces, all the regulations we deal with, those are the designed and human design concepts. Those are not natural ideas, or these are not natural entities. Those are designed things, and we design them for ourselves. And when we are not using profound knowledge about our behavioral mechanisms, about how we understand the world, how we interact with the world, how our brain works, then we create the overly complex institutions, overly complex reality, which makes then in turn our behavior more complex or more difficult. So the idea behind this lecture is to introduce, to implement some of the findings from the behavioral sciences into the design process of public policy, into the design process of all the social innovations. And when we speak about behavioral sciences, we basically speak about a myriad of intertwining sciences. So there is psychology with all its schools and with all these parts, so cognitive psychology, social psychology, and so on and so on. We have the behavioral economics, which is getting more and more popular nowadays, which is basically implementation of psychological neuroscience and sociological concepts and ideas into the economic models. So this is this school of thought, this school of research is mainly dealing with updating traditional economical models, which were mainly based on this rationality concept which I introduced before. And the behavioral economics is relaxing these models with psychological concepts, with psychological data, which is more and more available for the researchers. Then we have neuroscience, so all the research that deals with how our brain works, how our neural system works, how we see, how we think, how we memorize things, how we learn. So this is basically the, let's say, most robust sciences, because they are based on, they are quite close to medicine, to biology. But we have also these more traditional behavioral sciences like anthropology, sociology, cognitive science, so all the schools about philosophy of mind, and so on and so on. So behaviorally informed public policies or behaviorally informed social innovations do look to those schools, do go and search within these sciences, within these research domains, and they try to ask questions about the behaviors they do want to change, and they try to build some projects, some programs, tools that they design based on the ideas and evidence which comes from these schools. And as you probably feel right now, this basically looks quite scary. So you think that the guy came here at 6 p.m. and he tells us that we have to look and search through the thousands of books, thousands of research, and so on and so on. basically, in the role of designer is, of course, not to be the behavioral scholar or to be behavioral researcher. What I propose you is that when designing your ideas, when designing your initiatives, you can look for the already being and already available tools which do build on the knowledge coming from all the research areas I mentioned before. And there are numerous models, numerous handbooks, to some of which I will refer today. But if you would like to start with the simplest one, and to my opinion is that this is one of the most let's say clear and concise model of human behavior in terms of practical applications, I strongly advise and strongly suggest that you should start from the COM-B model. So the COM-B model was developed by the group of researchers from University College London, led by Robert West and Susan Michie. And those researchers, basically what they did is that they went through all available research papers. So this is called evidence review or meta-evaluation research. And they tried to answer the question, what are the key components of behavior? To make some context, their primary interest was changing health behavior. So how to make people stop smoking, how to make people exercise more, how to stop people having more balanced diet. So they were dealing with basically questions of this kind, and they tried to integrate all the available research evidence and to show what are the key components of the behavior. So if you want to change human behavior, where you should start, what you should look for. And the model, the COM-B model, is basically the model which shows that each human being has capabilities, and which are her or his, let's say, traits. We'll go to this into detail in a few seconds, and has some external opportunities. So external opportunities and impacts. Those two realms interact with motivation, and in effect, they drive or block behavior, which in turns, when behavior is generated, has some other interactions with all these three elements. And what is going on in these three key concepts? So what is there behind capability title, behind motivation, and behind opportunity? So capability refers to whatever we have, the knowledge, skills, and abilities required to engage in a particular behavior. So basically, could people we are dealing with do our behavior? If we would like to do something for people or with people, we are asking ourselves, do they have psychological capability? So do they have knowledge? Do they have skills? Do they have all the required information to deal with the task we are giving them to do? So if we are planning some, let's say, lifestyle change project, we ask ourselves, do people know how to change the lifestyle we are trying to change? So for example, if we are trying to implement the for example, healthy dieting plan, we ask ourselves, does our people who we work with have knowledge about what does it mean to eat healthy? And the physical capability is all the things related to their physical strength, skill, or stamina. So if we, for example, I was working with one of the local communities in Poland, and they were asking us how and why people they are working with do not engage in some program of the debt repayment, which was based on idea that if you have a local community debt, for example, you are not paying for the local services, you can come to the local community office, and they will offer you some paid job through which you could repay these debts. But then when we made some in-depth research with their target groups, with their stakeholders, we found out that a huge number of people living in this area were just old and to some extent disabled people. So basically, when you work with such group, the concept of physical capability plays crucial role, and you cannot expect from such people certain actions. So this is why this is the example how you could understand this topic. Second, you have opportunities box, and within the opportunity box, you have all the external factors that either drive the behavior, so make it possible or make it even easier, or they do block the behavior. So for example, you have these physical opportunities, which are basically infrastructure, resources, public services, all the things that allow people to do the things they want. So if you try to innovate, if you try to make something new, then you ask yourself what the already existing infrastructure, what the already existing services could be of leverage for me, could help implement my ideas into life. And then probably, which is more interesting, you have this social opportunity. This is more interesting because this is, of course, intangible, invisible, but sometimes this plays as important role as all these physical, tangible assets. So these are all the social impacts on our individual, of our group that we are working with. And within our research, I'm going back once again to this research on the debt, social debt repayment program in local community. There was a notion around these people which we were working with, this community which we were working with, that when somebody pays the debt, he or she is basically, let's say, stupid guy. Yes, so it was the idea that you don't have to repay the debt because they have no power to take these debts from you. So when you pay, you make the stupid decision. And many people just claim that this belief, this social influence on people beliefs, made more difficult for other people to repay the debt. And when you think about the social factors, cultural norms, and other issues, of course, those are myriad of factors that could play a role. But as I pointed out before, these are sometimes, and for many times, these are as important or even more important than all those physical opportunities that we can see or touch with our senses. And the third box and the third part of this model is motivation. But beware, this is not the motivation in terms of the popular understanding, the common knowledge understanding motivation. So that I do like or I do want to do something I feel motivated to do. This is much more broader term in this model because this covers both reflective and automatic motivation. And reflective processes are all the, let's say, planning processes, making decisions, evaluating options, and so on and so on. So these are much broader concepts, much broader terms, just in comparison to just the simple idea of whether we feel motivated or not. And then you have this automatic motivation, which are all the desires, impulses, and inhibitions, as well as habits, which are unreflexive, automatic reactions to the environment, which you repeat unreflexively in the given context. So basically, these three broad terms. So the capacity, what people do have, what people do have in terms of their psychological and physical capabilities, they take this all these traits, they go into the external world, the world of opportunities. They interact with physical and social opportunities, and with this interaction, they build their reflective or automatic reflective motivation. They undergo some complex thinking processes, or they react in automatic way to the cues that comes from the environment. And all these three blocks, they do interact with each other, and they either create the desired behavior easy to do, easy to accomplish, or they block the behavior. So they make the behavior really difficult to accomplish. And when you go with this comb model, you probably ask where I could fit such model in my design process. So basically, here I use the ideal designing processes. You can have many other, all these design diamonds and so on and so on. But basically, when you think about the design process, I strongly encourage you to use this comb model in the minimal way as a concept tool to ask yourself several questions about these boxes, about these terms during the discovery phase. So when you understand the challenge, when you prepare research and you gather information about the challenge, just imagine the people you are trying to work with, imagine the community you are trying to influence by your innovation, and ask yourself several questions stemming from this concept of COM-B model. So what are the capabilities of these people? What are the opportunities around those people? What are the motivations of those people? What they have, what they don't have? Which resources are easily available for them? Which resources I could provide to them, or which of these parts I could influence the most easily. So basically, when you use this comb model, I think you could very well fit it into this discovery phase, but then also to ideation phase. So what do I create? Once again, you come back to this comb model and you think, do those people lack, for example, external resources? Thus, these external resources are the blocking power, which do not, which will make my ideas more difficult to put into life. So these two points, discovery and ideation, I think these are the best points within the design process to use this comb model, to use this just as a guiding tool for the reflection about what you are going to create, what you are going to design, and then about the tools, about projects, ideas that you are willing to create. So firstly, diagnosis, research, narrowing of the design problems, and then ideating about possible solutions. And then when you think about behaviorally informed design, important thing is to think that you don't change people, but you design choice context and you design decision situation. So those behaviorally informed design interventions, they are not like the popular psychology, let's say, charlatans who just use some pop science to make people think that they will change how their brain works, they will change their attitudes and so on, just like that overnight. What behavioral sciences, the wealth of evidence from behavioral science shows us is that changing people, changing how people work, how people's brain work, how people think, how people react to incentives, how people interact with their social communities is a really a tough task. And in many situations, this is unachievable. So you can't change easily how the brain works. You can't change how people behave. What you can change the physical environment, you can change institutions, you can change the incentives. So you can work with all the things that are surrounding your stakeholders, the people that you are willing to work with. So basically, in this metaphor of the theater, you are not changing the actor. You are not rewriting the script that he or she is performing. What you can change the stage, you can change the tools they use, and through the changes within the environment, you try to interact with the behavior, and you try to change the behavior of your stakeholders. And before we move into some practical examples, before we move to clear and concise examples of how these ideas are used in the practice, you have to remember that this is not a simple magic wand. So this is not like you will go through all these concepts. It is not like you will read or gain ideas from some behavioral science books, and then just with one click, with one brilliant idea, you will change everything. This is not like this. So when designing all these public policy tools, and in your case, designing innovation projects, and using behavioral insights in this process, you have to remember that small differences could have large consequences, and you have to remember that there are no easily transferable best practices. So before we move into the best practices or case studies, I have to warn you that you can learn from the lessons from these examples. You can be inspired by those examples, but basically we think the international community of scholars and researchers and public policy officials who are dealing with these topics, they do agree that transferring simple best practices from one national, local context to another does not necessarily guarantee the success. So you can do everything according to what was done in other contexts. You can transfer the whole good practice into your context, into your idea, and you can fail. And basically, I will also tell you some examples of how this failure could look like. So basically, you have to study your own context. You have to answer to the scope questions within your context, relating to the social norms, to the people you work with, and not to the, let's say, artificial handbook driven ideas. And stemming from that, you have to remember that probably in your projects, because of the concept of your program, because of the scale of your program, you will not be able to do that. But when big public institutions do behaviorally informed interventions, they start from small prototypes, which is, as you perfectly understand, key idea of design thinking methods. So you start from the prototype, they test those prototypes, and they learn about the failures, they adapt, and they introduce the programs in the real world after profound testing. And how they basically do this is mainly through experimentation. To those of you who are not who do not know this idea of randomized control trials, this is basically a research method that was developed within the agricultural studies and then was quite overwhelmingly transferred into the medical studies, but nowadays it's taking ground also in social sciences. So basically the idea of the randomized control trial is that you have the population that you are willing to change. You split this population into 2 or more groups, like in this scheme here. And then you give different levels of the intervention to different groups. So you can have no intervention group, which is a control group. You have can have the second group with the level 1 of intervention. So, for example, if you are trying to answer the question, will the educational program increase propensity to save among people in some community? You can, for example, differentiate those groups based on the first group does not achieve any training, second group achieve, let's say, 2 weeks of training, fourth group achieve longer training, and, for example, last group achieve training and individual consultancies with tutors. So each of the group receives different level of intervention, and then you take some time to measure the outcomes. So, for example, within this artificial example I created about propensity to save for the retirement, you can ask yourself, what will be the level of savings in these groups, the mean average level of savings in this group after, let's say, half a year. You come back after half a year, you measure, and you compare all these groups. So you compare the control group, the group which did not receive any intervention, with other groups, and you are trying to understand which of the interventions was the best, which interventions created the best results. So this is basically how it is done when you have resources, when you have time, when you work in big institutions. And basically, there is a growing interest right now in such behaviorally informed public policy designing, and also in private sector. These are logotypes of some of the institutions, as you can see, some of the big international organizations, but also governmental organizations like the Behavioral Insights team, which is one of the leading worldwide teams dealing with that matters. They were created within the British government. Now they spun off from the government. They are to some extent private and non-profit company. The government has some shares in it, so it's also the organizational innovation to some extent. But you can see also the big tech companies and so on and so on. So those companies are right now trying to implement behavioral research teams, behavioral scientists, to help them design either private services, like in terms of the Booking.com or Google, or to design public services, like in the example of Australian government, for example. But not to stay just at the theory level. I think that the remaining part of the lecture would be good to devote to some real-world applications. So how these behaviorally informed interventions could look like in the reality. Basically, let's start with the example from Australia. So as you probably know, around the world there is a growing problem of antibiotical microbial resistance. So the microbes are more and more resistant to antibiotics. To some extent, this is because people are taking more and more antibiotics. They take them not in accordance with the strict guidelines, and this creates a huge challenge to public health. So what was done in Australia, the health department decided that they should intervene and that they should make doctors prescribe less antibiotics. So what they did, they divided a huge group of general practitioners into three groups. And the first group did not receive any letter. The second group, the red on the chart, received a letter with educational message, so basically narrating the story about how prescribing too much antibiotics is harmful for the general population. But the third group was they did receive the letter with the small behaviorally informed nudge. Nudge means a small push into the direction we would like people to go. And this nudge was based on the social comparison rule. As we thought before, as I talked before, people are influenced by this social impacts. So they, to some of the general practitioners, they have written a letter in which they inform that you prescribe antibiotic more frequently than 91% doctors in your area. It was carefully selected group, people who really prescribed more drugs to their patients received those letters. And as you can see, those group had the lowest ratio of prescriptions after the intervention. So the no letter group, this group that did not receive any letter has the highest. Education information was more efficient, more effective than not doing anything. But the most effective in terms of lowering the number of prescriptions per, this is the number of prescriptions per some ratio of visits, was the most effective. And in some longer term, they managed to lower the prescriptions by 190,000 prescriptions. So basically, the idea behind this nudge was that we don't want to do big informational campaign. We don't want to invest in trainings, in working with these general practitioners. We want something cheap. We want something that is easily implementable. We want something that will create good results. Basically, sending letters to the people that you have contact to, because they are doctors, they are registered practitioners, so you have their contacts, you know how to reach them. They created 3 letters. They implemented the most effective, which was based on this social norm message, and then throughout several months, they achieved such a great success. Other example is example of how to use default setups. So this is the example taken from the Netherlands. The Netherlands is one of the leading the government of Netherlands is one of the leading governments in Europe in terms of implementing behavioral sciences. They have special units around the spectrum of their public institutions. They have also quite active network of these units. And they publish yearly some great resources. You have a link down on this slide, so you could go there and check other examples of their brilliant work. And what was the idea behind this simple change? On the left side, the pink or orange box, depending on how you perceive the color, you have the excerpt from the online form, which was used for students, for Dutch students willing to take student loan. And the initial box, as you can see, had 2 options. So the student asking for a loan could easily check the maximum. So this was the maximum available due to the regulations. So it was maximum amount granted by the ministry, or he or she could write down individual sum. And what they thought is that then they analyzed the data, and they found out that majority of students have some problems with paying back their loans. They made some research. They found out that probably students are taking too much loans, and they are not spending those loans to, let's say, essential needs. So they tried to manipulate this form, and they removed the maximal button. So the maximum button was removed, and in the new form, student has to write the amount they needed. The maximum amount granted by the law was not changed. So still, if you read all the documents regarding the loan process, you could find the maximum rate loan sum, and they did not change this sum at all. What they changed was just the button inside the formal procedure online. And what were the results? When they remove the maximum button here, so the students could not easily click, check out this maximum button. They should write the sum they think they would need for the studies. The percentage of students asking for the maximum available sum dropped significantly. So in comparison, 69% to 33% of loans asking for the maximum price. So once again, what is the lesson? You don't have to educate people. You don't have to change rules. So you don't have to change the level of the support you provide. Sometimes just a small tweak inside the procedure, inside the design scheme, could have great impact on the outcomes you are trying to change. But the other story with default choices is the default participation in long-term saving programs. Here you have comparisons probably from the United Kingdom, if I recall well. The comparisons of two types of pension saving plans. So on the left, you have the level of participation in the plans in which you have to make active decision to join. So you have to find documents, you have to sign the contract, you have to send all of this, or you have to fill the form online, but you have to make the decision and you have to go through the process step by step by yourself. As you can see, the participation rates were the maximum was 62% after 3-4 years. And then they compared it with the programs that offered default participation. So the default participation is when you sign your contract with your employer, when you become to be employed, you are automatically signed for the pension plan. And then what is your freedom of choice? You can switch, you can opt out. So you can, your decision is not to join, your decision is to opt out. And if you compare those charts, you can see that the default participation in United Kingdom was significantly higher in the programs in which the default participation was given in comparison to the participation based on the active choice. But as I told you before, this is one of the, let's say, stellar example of behavioral economics. So the default subscription for pension plans is showed as one of the most influential behavioral informed intervention because it is cheap, it is easily implementable, and it has astonishing results across United States, New Zealand, United Kingdom. Richard Thaler, one of the fathers of behavioral economics, who was one of the inventors of this tool and was leading one of the first experiments in a real world experiments, so not the lab experiments, but the experiments in the real companies. He did receive a Nobel Award in economy, and one of the main reasons behind this Nobel Award was his research about how to make people save in a longer term. So you have the great success example, great success story, the stellar example of how behavioral economics could really improve human life. And then you have example of Poland, which introduced the similar program. So the Pracownicze Plany Kapitałowe, it is the name of our program. And it was also based on the idea that people will be, by default, sign in into those programs. And the participation in Poland is significantly lower in comparison to all these international examples. The opt-out ratio in Poland is astonishingly high. So as I told you before, those behaviorally informed interventions, these are not easily transferable tools. So you cannot take it as, let's say, like from the market, you buy product, you go with this product to other place, you open it, you unpack it, and you use it. No, this does not work in this manner. Something went wrong in Poland, probably some social interaction issues, some, let's say, public trust issues, some interactions between employees and employers issues, and something which was a huge success worldwide did not came in as a success in Poland. So this is a lesson to be remembered from this lecture. Another idea is that apart from these simple tools, you can also work with more complex and more, let's say, more complex programs. So here you have the picture of men participating in the Becoming a Man program in the United States. This was a program designed for Afro-American population from some cities. This, as you know, the United States have some problems with the high criminal rates in some cities, and majority of those people who are having problems with the law issues are the people of color. So they did create a special program for those young guys, and they did not educate them in relation to, let's say, listen, this is the law, you have to obey the law, you will be punished if you do like this, and so on and so on. So it was not a traditional education, it was not traditional sermons, as we say. What they work with was the impulse control. So the basic idea behind this program was that majority of these criminal offenses that those people commit are due to the inability to control the impulse. So, for example, they go to the club in the evening, somebody says something to them, they react, they overreact, they start fight, they have problems with the police. They see something on the street that they wish they have that, they steal the thing. So the idea behind, the psychological idea behind the program was that those people need to train their impulse control. And the whole program, apart from changing their beliefs, what does it mean to be a real man? So that you don't have to be strong, you don't have to fight, you don't have to engage in activities that you previously thought were tied with masculinity. Apart from this belief formation work, they taught them how to control impulse. They went through practical exercises which were meant to teach them how in the conflict situation, how in the stressful situation, they could control the impulse, they could not overreact. And on the left side, you can see that the group that was taking part in this program, in comparison to the control group from the same local communities, has 50% less criminal offense rate after the program. And they also made an econometric analysis, and they calculated what is the economic impact of the program. And by the economic impact, they counted all the fees that state has to make, all the investment that state have to make for the people who are in jail, how much state do have to pay for example, kids that are left without working father, and so on and so on. So the benefits were, the concept of benefits was quite broad, and they calculated that for each dollar invested in such training, there is $30 of broad socioeconomic benefits for the community. So instead of making more traditional prevention and so on programs, they designed something based on the more assimilating to the cognitive behavioral therapy, to more profound work on beliefs, on impulse control, and the success was really astonishing, and they are now trying to scale this program across the states. This is another idea how you can use these behaviorally informed concepts. This is the landing page from the app that is helping companies and NGOs to hire people in a more fair way. What does it mean fair? The research shows that, for example, when you look at when people dealing with the recruitment process have all the information about the candidates. So, for example, candidates' age, sex, candidates' previous education, and so on and so on. They subconsciously create some beliefs about the candidate's potential. And there are numerous experimental evidence from United States, from United Kingdom, that, for example, if you have the same candidate with the same experience, with the same school, but those candidates differ by the country of origin. So when you have, let's say, John and Abdul, then Abdul has significantly less chance to be invited for the interview, for the recruitment interview, in comparison to John. If all the other all the other traits, all the other achievements so far were the same. We at the Polish Economic Institute have made a similar experiment in Poland, but in relation to the age of the candidates, and our results also showed that the older the candidate, the less interviews she or he receives, having the same curriculum as the younger candidate. So you see that there are some subconscious mechanisms and conscious forces that are in play here. And this app, what is basically doing is taking aside all these subconscious issues. So when the application is reviewed, all the private data is taken out. When people submit, let's say, tasks, they are the people who are assessing these tasks only see the result of the tasks, nothing more. They do not know the age or origin of the person. Moreover, the people who are in this assessment center, they cannot view and assess task by task, so as not to be influenced by the previous tasks. So they implemented several mechanisms to make this recruitment process more fairer. And they are getting more and more popular across the UK, because this is a UK-based company. The other example, one of the last examples that I want to share, because the time is already there. This is the example also from the United Kingdom. And this is the example how a small redesign of the hospital forms could save time and could then, in a result, help the organization work more efficiently. So here on the down right side of the slide, you can see the old prescription. And the problem in this hospital was that within the old form, prescriptions for key drugs were erroneous. So people, doctors made enormous number of mistakes. And this is not a trivial problem, because when, for example, nurses do have, let's say, incorrect prescription, this can create serious health problems, but this can also create organizational problems, because they have to call the doctor, they have to ask again, they have to change their prescription. So on the one side, you have organizational problems. On the other side, you have some really serious health risks. So what they did, they just redesigned, and as you see, they said here in the red, they underlined what the prescriber has to do. So has to every third day has to confirm that this medicine, this drug, has to be taken in the future. So they confirm that there is the continuation of the treatment. And they only changed this, they changed some other boxes. And as you can see on the left side, the number of prescriptions which were correct just boomed in comparison. It was just incomparable. Almost all prescriptions which are designed, as you can see in the upper side of the page, were correct, while in the downside it was only 11%. Once again, small changes. This was based on the idea that doctors who work for long hours in the stressful situations, their cognitive resources like attention and so on are limited. So if we want to help them to make all this procedural formal work easier, we have to underline, we have to make something stand out from the other side. And you see that basically now in this upper side form, the marks, the boxes in which the doctor has to make some decision, has to tick, are clearly more visible. As we agreed before, I should speak for an hour and 15 minutes, so I will skip this and I will just move to the take-home messages. So basically, the key take-home message is that when you're designing, think about behaviors you want to change. So basically, the key idea behind design thinking is that you have some challenge, you have some, let's say, problem to tackle. You have things that are intangible, that are to some extent abstract. And what your task is to do is to change these abstract ideas into concrete terms and then into concrete solutions. And in this process of going from abstract to concrete, I strongly encourage you to start from behaviors. So if you are thinking about social innovation, just think what people and which behaviors I would like to influence, what I would like to bring into their lives, what I would like them to behave, what I would like to change within their behavior, within them, how the communities live. And in doing so, I encourage you to use this simple COM-B model, to which I gave you also links, so you can go and read more information about that. And then when designing solutions, so in this ideation phase, once again, go back and think which of the solutions I'm proposing are dealing with which behaviors, how the solutions I'm thinking about will interact with people's capabilities, will interact with the environment they live in, how they will be leveraging social norms, or on the other side, how social norms which are already there could make my ideas more difficult to be implemented. So these are the main ideas, and once again, they are neither shortcuts nor simple solutions. So please do not think that you have the magic wand, you have something easily and quite automatically applicable. This is a process of reflection. As I told you, in big organizations, there is a process of testing, adapting, the process of experimenting, which of course you will probably not be able to do, but this critical approach, this reflective approach is needed here. And don't think that you have just on-off button, which can be easily switched, and people will start to behave as you want. So basically, this was my message for you, and right now I will most gladly to welcome your questions, remarks, and so on.
Thank you very much for the talk. I think it was very rich in content, and I think you might find it like really useful in terms of social innovations and like how to kickstart this process of thinking about different innovations. And yeah, now I think I will open the floor for questions. I myself have a lot of questions, but let's start with Pablo. I can see that you have a raised hand, so yeah, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much for such useful information and important information. And I have a question about these criminal elements you spoke about. So, przepraszam, ja powiem po polsku, bo po angielsku po prostu nie potrafię tego. Właśnie z tymi elementami, to jak tam było? Na przykład im wyznaczyli, co jest dla nich ważne, jaki cel dla nich jest ważny, bycie prawdziwym mężczyzną, a potem już chcieli to właśnie, rozrobili jakiś model, jak to zmienić, czy w jaki sposób to się odbywało?
Okay, so I will be answering in English because I don't know how do other participants speak in Polish. So basically, I will send the detailed description to organizers. I will send the slides and in which you will have all the descriptions. Basically, it was several weeks of meetings during which they were working in I don't know if you are if you know what does cognitive behavioral therapy look like. So it was let's say meetings in which they discussed the ideas about masculinity. So what does it mean to be a man? And they were let's say rewiring their ideas about what does it mean to be a strong man? Does it mean to fight? Does it mean to be able to participate in a gang or so on? Or does it mean that you take care of your child? So they basically work with their beliefs, with their attitudes, and these are mainly the discussions and some exercises. And the part related to impulse control was also based on simple exercises. So for example, they were having like the small plastic balls, and they were making some exercises in which they were told somebody is playing with you, somebody is telling rude things to you, somebody is pushing you, how you react. And instead of pushing back, just count to 3. And they were counting and they were squeezing the ball. Yes, so they were playing with their abilities to interact with the reality with other people in different way. I will send all the description in the link, so you will be able to read all the detailed program of this. But this was basically these 2 parts.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Okay, is there are there any more questions coming from the audience? Yeah, Anton.
First of all, thank you, Paweł, for your presentation and information for today's speech. As for me, like similar with behavior management, and I also want to ask, it's a good approach, but as for me, it's my question: is it works in time pressure? because for behavior management, we need more time, we need research, we need people to understand their behavior. And if we want to implement our idea or our project in conditionals with time pressure, is it works and how we can maybe adjust it, or yes.
Yes, thanks. It is a great question. Basically, the answer is yes and no. So the no answer is that if you are willing to design and implement the full-fledged, the whole process of behaviorally informed intervention, then you need a lot of time, which is basically true, because you have to go through this research phase, to consulting evidence, to finding evidence, to researching all the stakeholders you are working with. Then you create some prototypes, you test them, you adapt some lessons from the tests, then you scale. So in that plan, those interventions could last even for years. So if you would like to do the whole process, basically you need time. But on the other side, there are some small-scale interventions, like these letter interventions or these form redesign interventions that take significantly less time to be tested, to be implemented. And thirdly, which is, I think, most important for you, you in the area in which you have a bit different tasks and bit different resources, you can take the diagnostic part only. So you can reach to like the comb model during the phase during the initial phase of your design. So you do not go step by step through the whole process, but you only take some of the ideas and you use them in this initial phase as a toolkit for learning about the stakeholders, about understanding the stakeholders, your target group, and so on and so on. So yes, basically I agree that the full process could be extremely long and could be extremely resource intensive, but also there are examples of some short or small scale projects and some part applications of this framework, which are really useful in the real world examples.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks for that. I had like a similar question that is maybe you partially answered that because of Anton's question, but I was wondering, considering the character of this residency and the character of the projects that the groups will be working on, what if, because you were talking about like exploring and identifying different opportunities for the project, for the innovation. And I'm wondering, what if we are designing for the context that kind of might likely change in the future, or kind of are unstable, like in this situation when the groups will be designing some projects that could be implemented in the post-war recovery, and the future might be a bit flexible, so we are not sure about the scenarios, we're not sure about the behaviors of people, we're not sure about the context, and it's kind of dynamic and flexible. So how should we approach this sort of processes, this sort of like design processes? Yeah.
Yes, another extremely insightful question, and hard on the other side. Basically, I would say that when you look at this comb model, so the capabilities, the motivation, and the opportunities, of course, within the opportunities box, a lot can change and rapidly change in such turbulent contexts. But at the same time, you have, for example, social norms, which are not easily changed in a small time frame. So the social norms are something which are rooted deeply in human minds, in the culture, and so on and so on. So on the one side, you have something which is really changeable. So you could lose infrastructure, you could the institutions do vanish, some resources are not available or will be made available during the reconstruction phase. But then you have some social dynamics, social mechanisms, which could last longer. Of course, as I told before, it's not easy to answer in that case, because majority of the research and evidence we have from the peace context. Yes, so the majority of research participants, to majority of evidence we gathered were gathered in the peace situations. So basically, this is why we have to carefully reinvestigate whether some of these findings could be easily transferable to the war or after-war reconstruction context. So basically, but then, for example, when you look at the capabilities box, and what this approach gives you is that when you ask yourself questions about the capabilities, you then naturally refer to the capabilities of the people who underwent trauma. So to the people who were faced with the situation which is unimaginable for the people in the other sides of the world. So once again, you have to then you have to really then answer those questions. So when you would be designing, let's say, innovation idea for the Polish citizens, you would have the totally different these psychological capabilities in relation to the Ukrainian citizens right now. Yes, so and then the same with motivation. Yes, so for example, you can have you can seek for the forces that were not present before, but will be present after war, and probably those could be let's say contrasting forces. So for one, let's say for example, you could meet with the communities which will be extremely psychologically tired and so on, at the same time with the communities which will be extremely willing to rebuild their country, willing to regenerate the communities. So some of the contrasting forces in these motivation areas could play a role. So basically, applying this could help organizing complexity, especially in such complex situation. But yes, of course, the changing context and the dynamic context is extremely tough challenge. So I do agree, and unfortunately, I don't have simple solutions to such challenge.
Yeah, I guess we're not expecting simple solutions because probably there are no simple solutions. Yeah. But yeah, thanks for that. I think it's also maybe useful to, as you said, like look into the opportunities such as like cultural assets or social assets, or maybe natural assets that we know that they would probably be there. And maybe it's actually essential to make some assumptions, even if they're not maybe sometimes like science-based, but just to verify them in the end, maybe, and see if that hypothesis worked or not. Okay, do we have any other questions? Because if not, I have another one. So okay, I will just ask my question. If anyone has anything, just please use the raise hand function so I know whom I can pass the voice. I have like, I don't know if it's a question, but maybe it's more like a reflection, because I'm curious about like the situation and the relationship between the designers or the people who are responsible for designing this innovation and the kind of target audiences or communities that they address with this innovation project. Because like this dynamics that you showed was more like, okay, so the designers kind of have the power to influence the behaviors of target group and like somehow like influence their decisions and their actions. And this is kind of like a one-side kind of relationship. And I'm wondering, because now it's like becoming more and more popular to think about design as a form of like kind of mutual process, and like kind of that we're not just designing for people, but we are designing with people, and we as designers can also kind of go through some behavioral change while we are designing something. So it's like a bit more dynamic and maybe reciprocal. So I'm wondering what would be your kind of opinion on that, or maybe how we can look at this like new trends or like notions of design from the perspective of behavioral science.
Yes, I do agree that my language and my way of presentation is to some extent colonized by this administrative discourse and consultant-based discourse, in which you arrive, you have a project, you have a name, and just you have 3 months, and then you want to be paid by your outcome. So I totally agree, and but also I am totally aware, and I do really support these co-design approaches, and in terms of, for example, evaluation of public policies, the participatory evaluation approaches, so in which you go to the community and you strictly work with the community. And here there are two, so basically I do agree that this could be applied also to this participatory process or to this co-design process without a problem. First of all, this helps both designers, the project team, and the community to critically reflect their beliefs, assumptions, and so on and so on. As I mentioned at the beginning of the presentation, that too often we start with a clear worldview, and we don't change this worldview according to data. So if the facts do not agree with our worldview, it's worse for facts because they are dismissed. So this behaviorally informed process asks us and invites us to rethink it. And if we can do this in the community, in the participatory approach, it's even only better. The only problem or only challenge I see here is that in design, for example, in some of the design schools, you have this idea that you, for example, when you create these empathy maps or the personas and so on, you ask people about their feelings, about their experiences and so on. And this is invaluable knowledge, but behavioral science shows us that there is a kind of mechanism that is, for example, the post rationalization of, for example, behaviors of ideas, or people are not as good as remembering and reflecting on the past events, or they are not. So basically, what behavioral science tells us is that not everything that you are said by your research participants is basically true. That you have to have some kind of checkup here, but this could be easily done by the triangulating. So the research triangulation. So you speak with people, you work with people, you test ideas with people. At the same time, you reach for other knowledge sources, and you mutually try to discuss findings from these different sources. So to make it clear, yes, I really think that participatory processes, co-design could be really enriched by this behaviorally informed process, and I think that this could be only a positive way, with some adaptations, of course.